So welcome everybody. For those who don't know me, I'm Ash from Pebble Beach Fundraising. We're down here in currently sunny Brighton. Seems like everyone's sunny at the moment. And this session is the latest in a long series of webinars that we've been delivering for over a year now. Just talking about the issues that our charity clients are talking to us most commonly about. So we'll be talking about regular giving at the moment. For the next, we should be all wrapped up within the hour. Here's what we're going to be talking about. So those of you that know me and have seen these presentations before will be laughing, chuckling to yourself at the ambition to keep it to 35 to 35 and 30 to 35 minutes. Okay, I'm really going to try, but it is going to be a roller coaster. Okay, we are really going to have to get a move on through this. There's lots of stuff to throw at you and thoughts and downloads. We want to have a Q&A session afterwards, so please use the chat function on Zoom to let us have your questions. But email us on hello@pebblebeachfundraising.com, please, if you want to ask anything in more detail. A lot of this stuff is unique and individual to your charity, and the same rules do not apply to everyone. So we're quite happy to have an honest and open conversation with you about your situation and give you any advice and thoughts that we can. Okay.
I did mine first.
Hi there. Sorry, can everyone mute themselves, please, as you come in, if that's okay? Thank you. Sorry, guys, I can't find them for some reason. I can't find the mute all button. So today we're going to be talking about looking at the 5 key things of fundraising. So audience, when we talk about regular giving, who are we focusing on? Which audience are we looking at? What's our fundraising proposition? How do we reach people? When do we do it? And that's a key thing. Okay, it's quite a big point at the moment about when do we go? When do we talk about regular giving? What's the appropriate time? We'll cover that. And then creative, we'll talk about the basics of regular giving promotion, and I'm going to show you a couple of examples from our history as well. Okay, so the first thing is, why regular giving in the first place? Why are we all so bothered about regular giving? Well, as the name implies, it's regular, it's predictable income, and our work often needs stable, consistent, long-term funding. Okay, particularly for those fundraising in the hospice movement that joined us, we do what we do, and we need to do that every day, and therefore regular giving matches that need. And that's often the success of regular giving, is that we're saying that regular predictability, that reassurance, the ability to plan into the future so that we can budget effectively in the future. That's why we need regular giving, because it gives us that confidence. And that's the charity side of it. That's why the charity wants it. But for the individual, it's an attractive proposition because it's a more affordable way for people to give more money to the cause they love. And that's an argument that we've used. I've been the first regular giving appeal I ever created was in 1994, and that was the argument there, which was, you can get, if I asked you to give us a one-off lump sum, you may well struggle, but if I ask you to break that sum down into 12 affordable monthly payments, you could probably achieve that, and that gets us to the objective that we want to achieve. And so for the individual, that's why regular giving is so important. And this is really the one message I'd like you to all take back, please, to your SMTs, chief execs, and particularly boards of trustees. This is not a quick solution. I just want to, again, I can't see all of your hands, but how many of you have had someone at some point in your fundraising career to say, oh, all we need is lots and lots of people giving us small amounts of money, and then we're fine. And that's easy, isn't it? Or we just have 5,000 people giving us £1 a month. That's £5,000 a month. Well, that's easy, isn't it? And one of the reasons that we've been, we weren't going to be talking about regular giving at this particular point in the year, but we're talking about it now because we've had quite a few charities come to us, hospices and non-hospices as well, come to us in the last couple of months and say, I've been told to go and get loads of regular givers, or we've been told to go and recruit more regular givers. We need help getting more regular givers. And it's that instruction has come from someone who quite often just doesn't understand fundraising. Okay, so the key message to go back here is that it is not a quick fix. Regular giving is important. It should be part of our portfolio, but it is not a snap your fingers and you get loads of new regular givers. It does not work like that. It takes time, it costs money up front, and it needs investment in materials, and as we'll discuss later, in people as well. Okay, and most of the national charities, the big national charities, the ones that you see on Save the Children on DRTV asking for £2 a month to help feed kids overseas, WWF saying here's your stuffed tiger and certificate if you agree to sponsor a tiger for £3 a month. When they promote that, they are working on an extremely long payback, up to 5 years. So they're investing in that because they know it's going to take them 2 to 5 years to get that money back before they break into profit. But the reason they do that is because they know from history that the number of years that the average lifespan of a regular giver is long enough to make that payback ultimately, and because they're bringing in regular givers who they can then talk to about other fundraising products as well. But it is not a quick fix. On any regular giving campaign that I've ever worked on, that we've ever worked on, if we made our money back within 18 months, that was a brilliant success. Okay, so a lot of charities are seeing recruitment of regular givers as a way to earn quick money. It is not going to be that. Yeah, we'll talk about the effect of the pandemic and the fact that that might change the narrative somewhat, but it's still not a quick win. It's something you should be doing. It's something you should have in your portfolio, but it's a longer term plan, and scale is important. Okay, it's much easier to make more money longer term regular giving when you've got lots of people to talk to rather than a small amount of people. So for some charities who are too small, it really doesn't make sense to talk about regular giving. You should be looking at cash instead. Okay. By the way, guys, if you've got any questions, as I said earlier, if you're going along, Chelsea is and Amy and Lucy and Ellie and Naomi from our team are here. Chelsea's going to be handling any questions. So if there's anything that pops up that really needs to be dealt with as I'm going, please type your question into the chat function. Chelsea will interrupt me and ask me to cover it. If not, we'll deal with stuff at the end. Okay. So regular giving has to have a comms plan. There is no point, absolutely no point, in recruiting new regular givers. There goes the dog. Recruiting new regular givers if there is no plan of what we're going to do with those individuals after we've got them. Shut the door. The joys of working from home, guys. And this is time and time again, unfortunately, we see this. Regular givers are brought in, and yet they just change their method of giving from cash donations or whatever it might be to regular giving, and then they get exactly the same stuff as they got before they became a regular giver. That shouldn't be the case. That shouldn't be the case. We should be thinking about a coordinated communications plan for our regular givers. If we recruit someone as a regular giver, we should then be talking to them. So when someone becomes a regular giver, how do we welcome them? How do we say hello? What do we then tell them? What is then the process of communication that we give them? We have to have that in plan, okay? We have to keep them informed and thanked and remind them consistently of the benefit that their giving is providing to our charity and the service beneficiaries, okay? And that needs staff resource and training, not just within fundraising, but also for the rest of the team as well. Quite often, regular giver administration is handled by our finance colleagues, yeah, and we love them to bits, but often they are not trained in customer service, in how to speak to people, how to say thank you. So quite often you see problems happening with regular givers because it's the finance team that deal with that rather than a fundraiser, rather than a communicator handling that relationship. So we need to know as a charity how to handle and respond, for example, when regular givers lapse. So someone sets up a direct debit, and if that direct debit lapses, then we need a program, we need a structure in place that lapsing is identified in the first place. We don't just have to wait to go onto Razor's Edge or DonorFlex, whatever it is, and trawl through to see who our active regular givers are. We need our finance colleagues to be telling us, Mr. Smith has just missed the second payment, the second DD has just bounced. If the first one bounces, fair enough, it might be just something with the bank and we can represent the DD. If the second one bounces and a regular gift actually lapses, then we need to be thinking about, right, how do we get in front of Mrs. Smith and say, hi there, how's it going? Everything okay? We've noticed that your regular gifts lapsed. Is that all right? Do you need any help with anything? And we can talk to them, for, as we said here, for example, about payment holidays. Okay, if you've changed your job or your circumstances changed, maybe we could just put your regular gift on hold, yeah, for the next 6 months, and then it can restart again 6 months' time. Or how about we reduce the value of your regular gift? You still want to support the charity that you care so much about, but actually we can reduce the amount, okay? But those conversations have to be had with the individual, and they won't happen unless there is a process internally for the charity, for you guys to recognize that your precious regular giver has just stopped being a regular giver and you need to go and talk to them, okay? And reporting and the management of regular givers is absolutely key. You need to understand how many people are coming in, the cost of recruitment of a regular giver, the lifespan, what the average value is, etc., because if you don't understand the value of regular givers, then you can't justify expense into further recruitment or activity as opposed to any other activity. You've got to know the value of this. Okay, so this stuff, unfortunately, it takes time. It does take work. Right, looking at the audience. Okay, so if we're trying to recruit and we've got our stuff in place and we're feeling comfortable that we've got our people in place, we've got our comms plan in place, we know how we're going to say welcome, we know how we're going to say thank you. So we look at our existing donor pyramids. There's two potential audiences, aren't there? There's warm and cold. People we already know, people we haven't met yet. So for those that we already know, our donor pyramid, we would always look at that donor pyramid. You know, the classic thing that I talk about, if you've heard me talk before, 80-20, 80% of your income comes from the top 20% of people, etc., etc. Regular giving is usually, but not always, not right for major donors' high net worths. It is usually the case that someone who has the potential to give you large cash gifts is going to be more valuable to you as an occasional large value cash giver than as a regular giver. And that does take some judgment. But I would much rather have £1,000 check per year from an individual than sign them up for 50 quid a month. Even though 50 quid a month would be brilliant, it's the net value I'm interested in. So we need to think about the audience. Most of the time, major donors, high net worths, regular giving is not appropriate for. However, opening that doorway, opening regular giving as a way that someone can support you and having that doorway open to everyone is important. One of the resilience pandemic recovery appeals that we've delivered recently generated a new someone who responded to that campaign by saying, yes, I'd like to support, but actually rather than give a donation, I'd like to give a regular gift. And they signed up for £1,000 a month because that was the thing that was what suited them and their income and their giving profile. Brilliant. So we need to open the doorway, but in terms of promoting it and having the focus conversations, most of the time, the very top of the pyramid, it's not appropriate. And within the warm audience, there are 4 groups that we want to target. We would like to convert cash donors. So people that have given money before, we'd like to say to them, that's brilliant. Look at what you've achieved with your contribution. Could you think about giving regularly? Because then we can have that money every single month and you will be supporting every single month or whatever the regularity is. Okay. And there's a certain profile of cash donors. The selection for a regular giving mailing is almost always much smaller than we would choose for a cash donation because the response rates are lower and therefore we have to be much tighter and we want to be much more careful about spending money, sending someone something in an envelope, for example, when we're talking about regular giving, because we've got to be much more focused and tighter on that. We also, however, want to upgrade existing regular givers. One of the tricks that many charities miss is they get someone onto a regular gift and that person then just sits there forever, just getting newsletters or the occasional bits and pieces, but they don't actually then get asked to increase their regular gift. It is a conversation you can have, not all the time, but we would quite often have a program where 2 years, for example, 2 to 2.5 years after the setting up of the original regular gift, we would have a conversation about the possibility of increasing it. They've been supporting, they've been happy with what they're getting. Actually, we could do more if you could support us with more. So as we're communicating about regular giving, we can talk about upgrade. We can also reactivate previous regular givers as well. Again, one of the frustrations that we see in the databases that we work with, we always look at lapsed regular givers. And quite often, again, because there isn't that process within finance and fundraising, talking to each other, someone's been a regular giver for ages. They then stop or lapse, or there's a reason why they're not giving anymore. And that's it. They just go back to getting newsletters or whatever it might be. Yeah. And there isn't that conversation about, okay, 3 years ago, you ended your regular giving. I wonder if we could talk to you about coming back, because that was a brilliant way of supporting us. And maybe your circumstances have changed now, and you can now once again think about giving a regular gift. And we also, at the same time, this is much less common these days, thankfully, but it's converting legacy regular givers, converting standing orders to direct debit. Standing orders are a complete pain because it's the individual that controls them. It's not the account holder. Therefore, if a DD bounces, we can represent it. But if a standing order crashes, that's it. We have to go and the individual has to start them up again. So it is an opportunity to convert standing orders to direct debits as well, because the attrition rate is much lower on direct debits. And most of the time when we're looking at the internal audience, we're looking at personal givers, those people that have given their own money. But we can look, there are opportunities to offer regular giving to certain other audiences. Generally, we don't expect a large return for cash appeals outside of a pandemic, certainly from event participants, for example, or people who've engaged in community fundraising. However, we've had some good success in the past where, for example, with the hospice example, people taking part in a midnight walk, they're taking part in that activity because it's an in memoriam activity. You've looked after someone I love. I'm going to do something. I'm going to go put a t-shirt on and dealy boppers on my head, and I'm going to go walk at midnight and raise money for you. But I'm only going to do that once. I still care. I still want to support the charity, but I'm not going to do that amazing, extraordinary event thing. And therefore, offering a lower value regular giving opportunity to those IMO participants who've taken part in an event actually quite suits that relationship. You've done the big thing, thank you. Now can we just talk about regular giving? So it's important to think intelligently about actually where are the opportunities, who might be interested in this. And we're looking at people who have an affiliation, a connection with the charity, with the organisation. I've put cold here as well. We've been asked by a couple of people recently to think about recruiting new regular givers from cold. Our answer is no. You will not successfully recruit new regular givers from an audience that you've never heard of before. It will not happen. I've unfortunately seen a couple of charities in the last couple of years that have spent many thousands of pounds, over £10,000 in one case, on cold regular giving recruitment, and they've literally made a couple of £100 back. It will not work as a direct spend. Okay, so we would not ever encourage cold direct mail, door drop, etc. What can work is a much longer, slower burn approach, particularly through social media, of promoting regular giving and inviting people to come in through that doorway. But we wouldn't ever recommend spending a large chunk of money on a fundraising campaign to go and get loads of new regular givers. Okay. The spend on regular giving has got to be matched the likely return, and that likely return is going to be in your pyramid of existing supporters. It is much more likely that you'll have success bringing people in on a one-off gift and then converting them to regular giving. Yeah. An example from my past, in the late 90s for YMCA, we had a cold donor recruitment program called, which was the Pound Pack, which literally we sent lots and lots of people a tiny envelope, and it had pictures of young homeless people saying, if you care about young homeless people, give £1. And it was just asking for £1. That's all it was. And literally people would put £1 coin in and send it back. And we were getting something like a 22% response rate to cold. But we'd already telephone traced those lists. This was in the day when you could do this kind of stuff. We'd already telephone traced those lists, and someone gave their £1. If we had their telephone number, then their donor number would be emailed to the telephone agency, that evening they would get a phone call going, oh, yesterday you gave £1 to young homeless people. You must really care about this. Brilliant. Can we talk to you about regular giving? And we would sign them up to a high value regular giving proposition. That was really successful. But because it was huge numbers, we would do hundreds of thousands at a time to feed into a number of people responding, and then they would get the telephone call and that would generate the income. And it was very successful, but it's a big, big operation. Okay, most regional local charities just cannot get to that size. Okay, talk about audience proposition. What kind of regular gift are we asking for? Almost all the time it's going to be direct debit. Everyone gets it, they understand it. Most people have DDs already, they're familiar with them. We've got the direct debit guarantee, which always means if anything goes wrong, they are guaranteed to get their money back, and that's the relationship. So it's the easiest ask. There are other opportunities. You can get people signed up to regular gift by text or regular credit card payments, etc. It's very, very small, very unlikely. Most smaller charities won't touch that. It's just not effective. Very large charity campaigns, fair enough. I saw one hospice campaign where they tried a regular giving recruitment appeal using text to give, a £3 a month regular text contribution. Yeah. And they spent several thousands of pounds on it, and they got one response. They got one text in response to this, and that was the agency testing that the text response thing was working properly. So in almost all circumstances, it's going to be asking people to sign up direct debits. But the next point is really, really important. Lottery. If you have a lottery, that's a regular giving proposition. And it's really, really vital that if you have lottery, you are understanding, and that's why the reporting is important, you understand the acquisition cost of a non-lottery direct debit and a lottery direct debit. If you are already really successfully recruiting lottery players, then it is very unlikely that you will actually be able to beat that acquisition cost by creating something brand new that doesn't talk about lottery. You're probably better off just putting more money into lottery recruitment, okay? Where this gets complicated, and again, we do see this occasionally, is where we have charities that have a lottery department and a fundraising department, and lottery told to go and increase loads of lottery players, and fundraising department are told to go and get regular givers. And they're literally competing against each other for the same charity. It's just nonsense. So I'm entirely comfortable about having a regular giving proposition and a lottery proposition, as long as, because some people don't want the gambling side of it, they don't appreciate that, they want to be able to give an altruistic gift, or they want to give more than the $4.34 a month for lottery. Brilliant. But as we must know how much it costs to recruit a lottery player, the profit we make from that, as opposed to regular giving, because then we can invest sensibly. Okay. Tribute funds, focusing particularly on hospices here, obviously tribute funds can be a one-off, but they can be a regular giving offer. Where they work best, I think, is where the opportunity to remember and celebrate a life, a leaf on a memory tree or something similar, is linked to a regular giving proposition. So one of the campaigns that we delivered a few years ago for one of our hospice clients was a memory tree where nothing, not the latest idea, bronze, silver, gold, but bronze leaf was, I think it was 80 quid, because that paid for hospice at home nurse meeting. Silver was 220 because that pays for a day's well-being care, and gold was 480, I think it was, because that pays for 24 hours of IPU care. But those are regular gifts, and whether that's an individual or a family collective signing up, the leaf remains in place on the condition that the regular gift continues. And so it's a very effective and emotive regular giving. There are also some high value sponsored products. So I've launched and we have launched a variety. I'll show you one towards at the end of this presentation. High value, and by high value I mean starting at kind of £15-20 a month, kind of child sponsorship equivalent things you might see for Plan Action Aid or Plan International, that kind of thing, right up to multi-thousand-pound opportunities that are for high net worth individuals, but also work extremely well for corporate audiences as well. And don't forget that regular giving doesn't just necessarily have to be individuals. So think about the proposition, and how much we're asking for. It's only if you're WWF or Cancer Research UK or Save the Children does £2 a month, £3 a month work. You've got to do it in such huge numbers to make that payback. Okay, so when your trustee says to you, all you've got to do is get a load of people giving you £2 a month, and then we've got the money we need, what's your problem? Just ask them back, how many charities do you support at £2 a month? Because it's the huge numbers that every charity would need. We'd all be needing to support 25 different charities at £2 or £3 a month in order to make that logic work. People don't respond like that. They support the causes they care about. And when they care about those causes, then they choose the amount that's relevant for them based on their ability to afford the gift. They're not just going to support something they're not really bothered about for £2 a month because it's not very much and it's easy. They're going to make the decision. So if you're taking the trouble to sign someone up at an amount that's comfortable but challenging for them. And we need to link the asks back to the work. So when we ask people for cash, as we've been asking people for donations throughout the pandemic, this is the problem, this is the solution, this is the amount of money we're asking you for, because this is what we're going to do with it. Look at how we're going to spend your money. Look at the benefit that will deliver. Exactly the same conversation happens with regular giving, okay? This is not just unique to cash stuff. We've got to be motivating people to want to give. And so, example, for hospices, we would always want to make sure that people only access certain parts of the service. Not everyone sees the building. Hardly anyone sees the building these days. They meet the community team, or they access wellbeing or day services. So we want to make sure that there is a range of opportunities to come in and give regularly, and that we talk about the benefit that regular giving will deliver to different parts of the service, because that might be the thing that they're interested in supporting. Yeah. And we might have, for example, well-being. I've said this is not single figure, double figure, triple figure, but just in terms of the amount, we might have a smaller amount for well-being because that's seen by most donors as being the cheapest part of the service. Community nursing being a bit more expensive, and then end-of-life care, particularly in a hospice environment, for the hospice example, that would be the most challenging and therefore the most expensive, and therefore justifying the highest ask. But we need to balance these properly. We also need to make sure that those people that feel comfortable giving 20, 25, whatever it might be, pounds a month, have the opportunity to do that because we give them that option. But we shouldn't set the bar so high. Our first ask should not be 15 quid. Most average gift of most regular gifts are going to come in around the £10 a month mark. On average, it'll be about £10 a month. But we need to make sure that if someone is only capable of giving £5 or even £3, we won't ask them that. But if they only want to give £3 a month, brilliant, let them do it. Fantastic. Let's keep that door open to them. Okay. And proposition, it can be a named product. We don't mind that. Butterfly Club, Circle Friends, Room Sponsor, we've worked on all of those, and that's fine, but it doesn't have to be. The real danger, guys, and I'm sure, I know for certain that some of you are going to be nodding sagely to yourself when I say this, is how many times have we seen, we go into the database and go, oh, we've got 14 people who are called Guild of Benefactors, or they're part of the Caterpillar Club, or whatever it is. Oh yeah, and that's something that someone did about 5 years ago. They set this thing up, about 15 people joined it, and we haven't really known what to do with it since then. And they're just there, and we don't really know what to do with them. And it's bizarre. So often you see these legacy with a small L, named products that a fundraiser's walked in going, oh, let's do regular giving, called it something, gone out, hasn't worked that well, and they've binned it and then moved on to another job. So you can have a product, you can have a name, as long as it's something you're going to be able to continue with and continue to talk about for many years in the future, because that's the relationship. Average direct debit, about 8 years on average. So that's how long the product needs to last for. But you don't have to put a name on it. You don't have to have a club. You don't have to have a group, etc., etc. It can just be supporters with a regular gift. And that makes things so much easier, okay? But remember, for the individual, the biggest barrier is the commitment. The biggest barrier to regular giving is, oh, I'm signing myself up in perpetuity for something. So talk to them how easy and controllable this is. You're in charge of it. You can change your payments. You can pause your payments. You can stop your payments. We just want to give you the ability to make an affordable contribution, to maximize the amount of money that you're able to give to the cause that you love, to maximize the amount of benefit we're going to get from your support in the easiest way possible. But it is in your control. So we need to talk about that. And finally, the point there, we tell stories. Regular giving is much more a cerebral fundraising proposition than just the quick, give us your cash, or, you know, your children in need, watch this video for 2 minutes and send a text to us. It's much more about, can you make a considered decision, as we would if we were talking about legacy giving, for example. But we still need to engage the heart. Too often we see communications around regular giving and regular giving materials that are just focused on the process and the structure of it, rather than the reason why you would do that in the first place. So tell stories, give examples. And there, as you said, the positive experience of a regular giver is often really helpful. I love the fact that I give regularly. One of the things I strongly recommend, and we've promoted a number of times in the past, is that when the finance team set up the regular gift at the bank, most of the time you've got something like 54 characters, I think it is, that you can assign as a description. You know, if you make a payment these days online, you can say, this is what this is, yeah? And so when the payment pings across, the person receiving it goes, oh, it's Ash paying for his concert tickets or whatever it is, yeah? You can set that up for your regular gift. So you can use that text, that 54 characters can be used to say, support of hospice, local hospice care, or support of our charity, or support of local people with cancer. Thank you. You can have that as the text that pops up on their account every single month. So if you just, the simple little thing like that, the bank can be doing part of your job for you by saying thank you to your regular giver supporter because you're using that text option. Yeah. So think about, again, that positive experience. Okay, media. How do we communicate? Right. The good news is that face-to-face, door-to-door and DRTV work best. Bad news is only if you're able to invest in seriously large numbers. Almost all local regional charities will not be able to get to the scale needed to be able to afford the agency or to put that in place themselves. There are some cheaper solutions, particularly on DRTV. So Sky Ads, for example, you can buy space on Sky that's just for your local area, and you can have an ad that will drop in at the point when a regional ad space becomes available, etc., and you only pay for the number of people that actually view the whole advert. But again, it's still going to be very, very small numbers. There are some opportunities with digital radio as well, but again, we've worked with a local agency here in Brighton who supported digital radio advertising for one of our children's hospice clients, but it's bigger numbers. It really, and it's longer term. It's a whole year's worth of planning and programming. Okay.
Sorry, can I just jump in and suggest?
Yes, Ellie, of course.
Just we've had at Northern Ireland Hospice, we had some really good success doing venue-based fundraising at a local shopping centre, which was literally within a stone's throw of the children's hospice. So really, really effective, a really sort of good captive audience that were incredibly responsive. So I would well recommend that as one face-to-face solution that can be cost effective.
Yeah, absolutely. No, thanks, Ellie, everybody. Our wonderful colleague. For face-to-face recruitment, I also really like to have volunteers talking about regular recruitment at events. So, you know, the classic kind of thing, the fete, the county show, particularly that kind of stuff, but also in and around the fun run, the Santa run, the midnight walk, whatever it might be. Let's be there talking to people about regular giving, and that can be really effective. I did a piece of work with Sustrans, the National Cycle Network charity, national cycling charity, many years ago, and we reviewed supporter recruitment and regular giving recruitment. They have a membership model, but it's regular giving. And overwhelmingly, their best recruitment source, because we tested various things, is people in tabards on the cycle route. So at the cafes where people stop for a drink of water, they've got guys going, "Oh, hi, how are you enjoying your ride today? We're part of the charity that does this. Can we talk to you about it?" We had a local charity to us come and talk to us a few months ago, and they look after one of the local nature reserves. And they were wanting to get new membership and simply said, okay, put someone in a tabard on site and get them just say hi to people as they arrive and have a walk around the nature reserve, and that's your best recruitment option. So, being there face to face, doing the one-to-one thing, that's the easiest thing to do. But in terms of going out and recruit as a campaign, then yes, direct mail to warm supporters is justified. Absolutely, absolutely justified. But the segmentation has got to be a lot tighter than for cash or for hospices for Light Up a Life. Okay, it's a more niche product. The take-up is going to be less. So in terms of types of response rates, we would normally be thinking in normal times anyway of something around a 3 to 4% response rate for direct mail. It depends, but that depends on the segmentation. The tighter you go, the higher the response rate you'd expect. Yeah. So it's much smaller than cash. Yeah, something like a third of the response rate of cash. Think about that. And we want to use direct mail because we want to have that personal direct approach. We want to say to people, Mrs. Smith, you've been amazing. Thank you for the 4 gifts you've given us during the pandemic. That's got us through. We now need to face the next year or 2 years. Could we talk to you about regular giving? Yeah, but we need to refer back to the relationship we've got, and we can do that with direct mail because we can bring in personalization. And this next point is, I should have emboldened this and put it in red. Wherever possible, we want to follow that with phone. Regular gift works best where we promote that to an audience and then we follow it up with a phone call. I have tested any number of campaigns where we put phone first and followed it with direct mail, and direct mail first and followed it with phone, or phone only, etc. The best combination that in my experience, and this is 27 years now getting on for, is to speak to a wide audience about with direct mail and then use telephone. It's harder these days. It's harder to get phone numbers. And certainly it's difficult to find agencies with capacity for the kind of smaller numbers that most local regional charities have. But it is still possible to use the phone. There are agencies that have home workers now that can pick up smaller numbers. My personal favorite is the hospice doing it themselves using a bank of phone volunteers. And I don't know if anyone's there from Keach. David Pond, bless him, is normally on these from Keach. Hello, David, if you're there, I can't see you. When I first started working with Keach Joint Service Hospice in Luton many years ago, they had a volunteer telephone fundraising team that would work from the fundraising office of an evening, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, usually first week of the month. And because there's phones and desks available, the fundraisers have all gone home, and they would spend, these volunteer telephone fundraisers would phone supporters, they would chase gift day, they would chase event sponsorship, but they would also talk to people about regular giving. And it was hugely, hugely successful. And the volunteers felt really positive about it because they can see the amount of money they were raising. So again, it's a simple, easy way that a smaller charity can do this. A number of you I know have had fundraising days during the pandemic where you've been on the phone. I think a few of you have had whole days where the entire team's been on the phone. You've phoned supporters. If you've had that experience, you know the reaction, you know the response that you've got from that and the kind of conversations that you've had. You can have more of that, and you can put volunteers, they'll need some training, they'll need some help, they need a script, and they need a bit of mentoring. They'll have to have someone there to support them if someone asks a difficult question, but they can do a serious piece of work for you if you have that option. The other thing you're going to need, you will need printed information. Okay, you're going to need, if someone wants to sign up for regular giving, you're going to need something that you can pick up and hold that says, this is what we're asking you for, this is why, here's how it benefits people, and here's a form. And you want that because it sits in reception. If you're a hospice, it sits in the patient pack that the patient or the family get when they first arrive or first engage with a hospice. But for all charities, it can be in your shop, it can be in the boot box of every community fundraiser. So any community fundraiser that doesn't have regular giving information in the boot of their car, I want to have a word with, okay, because we should be, because it's a fundraising proposition that's relevant for everybody. We've got to make sure that this is something we just always talk about, okay? And we need to match that printed information with online. So someone should come to the website. Quite often we'll see a charity website where it says, charity, ways to support, and it's just got regular giving, and then you go and it says, oh, regular giving is a really great way of doing it. You can click here. There's no passion, there's no argument, there's no encouragement to do that. So we need to make sure that our mission to recruit and infuse donors and getting them onto regular giving is matched online with our offline stuff. Okay,
Ash, I'm just gonna jump in on that. We're both gonna jump in.
Go on then.
Give you my stats.
So I just wanted to say before I forget, because I will forget, by the way, you've put the dog to sleep, so thanks, Ash. So the thing I wanted to mention is when you were talking about everybody promoting this, so across the fundraising team, but also across, other teams, marketing, etc. It's really about developing, much as you would for legacy, the same kind of communications and messages that everybody understands and is able to communicate out to other people. I think we get a little bit institutionalized in the sense that we all think we all know what regular giving is, but to Joe Public, who doesn't work in a charity, regular giving is just two words that happen to be put together. So we have to really address that and understand that not everybody understands it's not jargon, but it can sound like jargon when we're talking about regular giving. We need to explain what it means to give regularly to a charity.
No, absolutely right. And that's why it's about telling their stories. Every single month, we're going to have people, or we're going to need to provide a service. And so therefore, if you give us this every single month, we can do that. I've just noticed the time, and I'm way over already. I do apologize. I told you it would happen. Okay, so I'm going to speed up if that's possible.
Can I give you a tiny stat just to illustrate?
Go on then, Annie. Go on.
It's just to illustrate the importance of online, because I think quite often it can get overlooked, especially just as you've acknowledged with regard to regular giving. But this is from NFP, and basically the first 9 months of 2020 saw a 37% increase in the number of new online direct debit signups compared to the same period in 2019. I mean, that's a heck of an increase of people going online to sign up for a regular gift. So, it is absolutely has to be a key focus, is to go and have a look at your website and see how user-friendly it is, just how effective it is in terms of supporting any activity you do for regular giving, because that's where people are going.
Yeah, and they're motivated to support. Yeah, the situation is creating a reaction where I want to help. So they're then going to the website and going, right, how can I help? And whatever option they're seeing, that's the one they're responding to. So if they're seeing direct debit, brilliant, but they've got to see that. Right, I'm speeding up. Timing. Okay, this is the most key question that people ask is, when do I do this? And this webinar was entitled Regular Giving in 2021. So that's fine. So yes, you should be talking about regular giving now and all the time. Just as Richard Radcliffe would be saying to you about legacy fundraising, do it always and all the time, so should you on regular giving. and it should be an option for every patient, family member, visitor, person, website, service user, etc. Everyone should have that opportunity. But if we're advising our charity clients, particularly I'm looking at hospices here at the moment, guys, with a focused campaign, it's got to be when the regular gift solution matches a charity need. So when we've delivered capital appeals before, we've delivered a dozen of these now, regular giving comes at the end. While we're building the new thing, we're asking you for one-off contributions to help us to get through the stages of building the new thing. But once it's built and we've achieved that objective, now we need to run it. And can we talk about regular giving? And thank you for all those donations. And let's thank you again for that. Remind you of the relationship you've had with us. And now we want to move on to regular giving. In this pandemic, my view is that is the same kind of conversation that we have to be having. Yeah. So for some hospices and some charities that we're working with, there has been some consistent communication around the problem solution. This is the challenge. Can you help? Thank you. Can we talk to you about something else? They have had 3 or 4 chances to give cash donations or play the raffle or whatever it might be. And so now, as we hopefully, touch wood, we emerge from the pandemic, then yes, there's a horizon in the future. We need to run the service. Can we solidify your support for the future and give us that predictability? And so at the moment, this summer, in the autumn, for example, could be appropriate. For the majority, I have to say, however, who have not been out, who have not had that consistent and solid individual giving fundraising message, I don't think regular giving is the solution at the moment. And the reason for that is I think if you ask someone to do something and they're really motivated to support you, they'll do it. If that thing that you're asking for is a cash gift, that's what they're going to give. If you ask them for a regular gift, then fair enough. A smaller percentage, because of the commitment still, will sign up for a regular gift. But in terms of overall net income, I think you lose. So our recommendation to our clients almost all the time, not every time, almost all the time, is make sure that we've had the opportunity to speak to people about one-off, easier, less committed forms of giving, and then move them, then thank them for that contribution and move them onto regular giving. So for us, quite a lot of the time, we're looking at actually landing a concerted, focused drive to deliver regular giving in spring 2022. The work is already going on now to deliver the materials online and offline and the processes and training needed for finance, etc., to be ready for that. And if people are signing up organically, brilliant, fantastic, not a problem. But we're not going to spend money pushing until early 22, when we can logically and reasonably say, oh, you've been part of the team that's got us through that. Now we need to think about regular giving, and now I'm looking you square in the eyes and I'm asking you to do that. Thank you for doing that during 2021. From 2022 onwards, we need predictability. We're looking to you to provide that. Okay, so for me, most of the time, that's the ideal solution. It means that 2021 can be the time for getting resources together, preparation, ready to launch the campaign in early 22. Okay. Very lastly, right, I'm just going to whiz through and show you, here's a couple of things we did earlier. Just for example, there are many, many ways to deliver regular giving, but these kind of things, just as with any campaign, it's got to be inspiring, passionate, clear, tangible. What are you asking for? Why? How much are you asking for? We need to convince head and heart. We've got to tell stories. On a little technical thing, the form, either online or offline, is absolutely crucial. Yeah, quite a lot of the time we think about the demographic of our audiences. We want to make this simple, non-scary. This is the easiest form in the world to fill in. So quite often with recent campaigns, we've actually had number 1, now do this, number 2, now just telling this, now fill in your 3D, etc., etc. So we're just making this is the least scary form you've ever filled in. It's really important to do that, because if it looks daunting, or if it's tiny and you've got to fill in your thing in a tiny little box, then it's I'm going to pen, I won't do that. Okay, we've got to remove those barriers. And online, if you do it online, it's got to work online, but it's also got to be mobile friendly. 90% of the time, people are going to be seeing this option on their phone. So this needs to be something they can add in. And most of the time, if you're anything like me, your phone remembers your bank details. You can just hit, use this particular account. It'll add in the details. It's got to be ready for that. Make it easy for people to do this. Okay.
Sorry, one quick thing. I think there's a very, very big distinction between what you're talking about in terms of online and social media. So what you're not talking about is a social media campaign. You're talking about the online form for your website that allows people to do a regular giving regular gift, essentially.
Yeah, absolutely. And for social, so talking about regular giving on social, you've got the opportunities on social media to add value. You can add video, you can add examples. So and again, Facebook, recruitment via Facebook onto regular giving can work really well. But again, it's got to be part of a can't just put one Facebook post out. And this is often, again, our frustration. Amy, I'm looking at you while I'm saying this because we've had this conversation a few times, haven't we, recently, where some charities think that if you print a form and put it on the website and send one tweet and post it on Facebook once, then that's the regular giving box ticked, and you don't have to worry about it for another 2 years. It really isn't. It's got to be something that's consistent and constant, and you continually pushing that.
I think, yeah, you're right, Ash. And I think a lot of times charities look at digital, and I'm saying digital by way of delivery, but like social media as a free thing. And it isn't free. It's not free in the sense that face-to-face isn't free. Like, you need staff to do it, and you need the time to do it. But in addition to that, just because it's free doesn't mean it's the most effective way of communicating it. Yes, by all means, have it as part of your campaign. This is the same thing with legacy. Have it as part of the campaign, but be really critical and considered about how that works, and then look at the results afterwards. See what does make a difference and what doesn't, and then learn from that.
And it's that reporting and management is absolutely right. When I was putting together, Ellie and I had a conversation about the management reporting. Quite often, again, regular givers, we will ask a charity to export their regular givers to us, and we get some people that haven't given for 10 years, but they're still classified as a regular giver because that's what finance has sold them. It's just, you've got to be accurate with that because you've got to understand the value of this. Right, I'm going to show you a couple of bits of creative, just really, really quickly. And this is just 2 examples that I literally went into our archive and grabbed, thinking, okay, these look nice. So the first one was Lymphoma Association quite a few years ago. We developed this. This is just simple. This is the leaflet. There was an online version, etc. But it's just the kind of thing that we've been talking about here, which is, I'm going to move that to the side. So the problem, every 40 minutes, someone is newly diagnosed. So again, the problem is consistent. The problem is that every 40 minutes, someone is diagnosed with lymphatic cancer. Well, how do we treat that? Well, a regular gift. If we have regular income to match the regular expenditure we need to have, then that's the best solution. Yeah. So we then tell a story. This is Catherine, and she talks about her experience with lymphoma and how the benefit the charity. We start talking here about here's how your money can help. So you can see we've got a gift of £10 a month could do this, £3 a month down here can do that, 5 here, 15 here, talking about the various ways that the charity supports people. Another example, another story, giving some stats and headlines, etc., etc. There's the form. Nice DD form. Actually, it's not as nice as the ones we do at the moment. It's a bit less design than that. Back page. So it just does the job. Yeah, it's exactly what you need. Does the job. Lots of faces, lots of bright color, engaging, informative, gives people options, leads into a form. Okay, so that's standard regular gift. The second one I'll show you is, this is one of these high value regular giving propositions we talked about. So this is something we've delivered for a number of children's hospices and a couple of adult hospices as well, which is called Pay for a Day. And as it says on the tin, the proposition is, can you pay for an entire day of care at the children's hospice? This is Donna Louise in Stoke, and this is promoted to high net worth individuals, but also some small trusts and particularly corporates as well. So it's a regular giving proposition in that we ask you to either donate or raise, or a combination of both, don't care which, the amount of money it takes to pay for a whole day's worth of service delivery from this charity. And once you've done that, you choose your day, and only you can choose your day. They're unique, and then you own that day. You've paid for that day of care, in this case at the Donna Louise Children's Hospice. Okay, and the amount for Donna Louise, it depends from charity to charity. The Donna Louise, it was £5,003 because that's how much it costs. So the ask is £5,003. Okay, and again, what this does is just then take you through, again, it's the head and the heart stuff. 24 hours of extraordinary care. Every day is special. So it talks about, this is what care is and looks and feels like at the Donna Louise. This is the story. So this is story of little Anna. There's a picture of them together on the swing. This is the explaining how the product works. These are the examples of 2 families that received the care from Donna Louise. A typical day. So if we're asking you to pay for a day, this is what a day looks like. So we're going again round and round every day. There is a cycle. So we start off in the day. This is what happens during the day. Here's all the fun stuff that happens coming around here through the evening into the night, and then overnight, and then we start again. So that's what we're asking you to pay for. Message of support from Jonathan Wilkes, who's a patron and a really good guy. Spends loads of time with them. Does lots. He's a really good one. He gets out there and he does it. And why you'll be choosing, just supporting that, you'll be paying for 24 hours of care. Also, you can choose we quite like that because it's a day. If you choose to pay for a day, you can do that in memory. You can it's turned into an IMO product. You can do it in memory of mum, in memory of dad. People quite often, if it's a family choosing to raise this amount of money, they'll be choosing a wedding anniversary of mum or dad, or mum's birthday, or an anniversary of some nature. So it's quite a nice thing like that. And of course, it's about actually bringing magic and inspiration to children and families. And this is how we'll say thank you. So this is our product. If you do this, we're going to offer you a personal visit because you're giving us £5,003. Not necessarily on the day, because Children's Hospice, you can't always guarantee you can get in because of whatever the care needs are, but you'll definitely be invited in. You'll get a personalised frame certificate, which costs about £5 in a frame from Donnell Mill, which is brilliant. But that's what we send out to you. And there's online recognition as well. So on your day, there are exchanged ad banners. So on the charities website, the corporate banner will appear from the company, for example, sponsored, and the Donna Louise banner will appear on the company website. So it's just a nice way of recognizing and say thank you. And of course, here's your case study. Yeah. And the reason that it doesn't say £5,003 anywhere in there is because obviously that changes. So there's the ask in there. So that's a separate loose thing that sits in the folder with the space of the business card down here as well. Okay. So you can see, again, same kind of thing. First one starts at £3 a month, up to £15 a month. This one is £5,003 a year, but it's the same kind of conversation. This is what we're asking you for. This is why. This is the benefit. Here's how it works. Here's what you get in return. Here's what we're asking you to do. Okay. Right. In summary, my 30 to 35 minutes has been 52 minutes so far. Amy, you win again, honestly. Amy wins a couple of pints every time I do one of these.
I take no pride in this, Ash.
Yeah, I know. I never get it right away. Okay, so regular giving. Of course, yes, absolutely. You absolutely should have regular giving as one of the doorways that you open to allow people to walk through to support you. Of course you should, but only as part of a long-term donor development plan. Yeah, regular giving is not an immediate quick fix. It's not a quick solution. It is a long-term thing. It is part of an ongoing communication because do you know what? Your regular givers ultimately can become legators because that's the nature of the close relationship you've got with them, but it's got to be part of a considered plan. Think about your audiences, think about the pyramid, not the very top, but think about the next chunk down and how do you approach them? Define the propositions. What are you asking people to do? Why? Where's the benefit? How much? What are they going to get in return? Offline and online, you're going to need both. Now is great. Yeah, having it now, having it available now, brilliant. But if you're going to invest money as a one-off big push to reach out to your audience, think about the right time. Think about when the logic is of when regular gift really makes sense. If it's now or this summer, brilliant, go for it. Absolutely fine, go for it. But if it's not, because you haven't had the one-off opportunities and conversations yet, then hold and wait until that time comes. Yeah, make it compelling, passionate, good looking. Okay. And this last thing, it's really obvious. The thing I was saying about the named products earlier, this is going to be around for a long time. So if you print something, produce something, it's going to exist. It's going to be there. The number of times we've seen, I've walked into a charity office and there's a bloody great box or several boxes full of regular giving information. We go, what's that? Oh yeah, it's gone out of date now. We need to get rid of that and get it reprinted. So, but if you're going to print something online, you can change it, but in print, you're stuck with it. So don't do too many, do the amount you need. And particularly in the pandemic, if we're talking about hospice charities, if you've got pictures of nurses in PPE, a couple of years time, that's probably not going to be relevant. Okay, so think about the way that you present that. Okay. Right. Shutting up. Last thing. This is how we can help you. Okay. We are here to do the stuff that you can't do yourself. If you want to have an all singing, all dancing, regular giving program, we want to make sure that you've ticked every box, you've done everything correctly. We can help you to get to that point. But we're only interested in coming in and delivering the bits that you can't brilliantly do yourself. So we can give you accurate predictions of your best audience. We'll examine your donor pyramid. We'll do the data model, and we'll give you we've got a regular giving version of our data model. We can look at that and say, these are the people that are most likely to sign to regular gift. We can guide you into where you put your spend. We can develop the proposition for you. We can come up with a name or a club if you want that, or just a regular giving, and we can deliver the materials. We can build the media plan, both online and offline. We can work with you for a schedule as well. We can fit in. We know that the year is packed with lots of other stuff happening, and everyone's hoping to get their events programs up and running again in the autumn. Are we not? So we need to think about when that timing. We can work with you to find the optimal timing for this, and we can deliver all the content. We can write it, we can design it, we can print it, we can mail it, we can take all that stress away if you need it. We can even come in and work with finance colleagues and do some training if needed. We can write a telephone script for volunteers. We can even come and do some phone training if that's needed. We can do all of that stuff. But the point is, an agency, we can't come and deliver regular giving for you. No one can. It's got to be something that you do internally. Yeah, you've got to do this yourselves. What someone like us can do is give you the tools and the strategy and the approach to be successful, but you've got to then run that. And I say again, there's no point in just piling out with a regular giving ask, and then literally they just sit there going round and round, and no one gets any real attention or communication for the next 2, 3, 4 years. Yeah, please don't do it that way. All right. Okay, you'll be delighted to know that's it. That's us. Get in touch. You know where we are. We'll come on to some questions in a second, but again, please feel free, drop us a line at hello@. We'll come back and have a conversation with you about you, your personal circumstances, your charity circumstances, and we'll answer any questions. Myself, Ellie, and Amy are available for you. Okay. Next month, a hospice special, uniquely for hospices, Light Up a Life. I know it's April. I'm talking about Light Up a Life. I'm sorry, guys, but unless we start thinking about it now, we're not going to be able to make some good decisions. Last year was really unique, and there was lots of learning and lots of experience that happened. And what we're going to talk about next month is, right, here are the high points. This is what worked, this is what didn't work, here's what we'd keep, here's what we wouldn't do again. And this is our thoughts and recommendations for 2021. So if that's helpful to you, please come along. You're very welcome, as always. And finally, there you go. Thank you very much. Give us a shout if you've got any questions. Chelsea, are you there?
Yes.
Hello.
Hello.
So I've seen the things popping up, so a good 20 odd questions. So in the time we have left, sorry guys, I've gone on again. What are the things that people are talking about?
20 questions is a bit much, Ash. I'd say it's 2.
It's mainly... 2. There you go. That's all
right. So first one,
Niels.
If your supporters convert from cash to direct debit, how can you change what they receive without spending more money, as this could encourage cancellation? For example, they may already be receiving newsletters and appeal asks. When they convert to regular gift, what other communications could you be looking at sending them? Yeah, also, without taking anything away that they already received, just concerned about over communicating.
Yes, absolutely right. I said I wondered if David Pond was there, and there you are, David. Hello. Yes, absolutely right. The big challenge, I think, and the worry is that sometimes it happens with major donors a lot. Suddenly someone converts to the thing we've asked them to do, and then we stop talking to them because they come out of the plan and we don't have anything else to give them. So I'm entirely comfortable with regular givers having a similar kind of concept. We still send them newsletters. We can still send them, give them information about how their support is helping. But we need to reflect the fact that they're regular givers. Some charities have there's an extra Christmas card. That's all it is. Yeah, Christmas card at Christmas saying you're regular, we love you, thank you so much. There you go. Or there's an invitation to the summer thing, or there's an extra enclosure, or and if you want to do a badge or something, you know what? Some of the charities that we work with, someone recently we're talking to, they've just given away a load of badges because they had a load of badges stuck in a cupboard, and actually it was quite enough. And we, you know what, we might as well use these up, give them to regular givers. Fine, not a problem. Yeah, don't create a brand new thing. But what you can do is every time you communicate to a wider audience, newsletter, for example, you've got to have a covering letter most of the time on that. So if you take the time to make sure that the covering letter for regular givers talks to them about that relationship, says thank you, then that is a way of personalized communication. The other really important thing is what happens with cash appeals. So someone who has been a really good cash appeal supporter becomes a regular giver. Do you stop sending them cash appeals? In the main, the answer is no, but we need to refer back to the fact that they are a regular giver. So most of the time, outside of a pandemic, if someone is a brand new regular giver who has never given in another way, we wouldn't immediately start including them in cash appeals, and we would normally not include regular givers in ordinary cash appeal asks. But in a pandemic, in a capital appeal, at a time of real stress or crisis, absolutely. And we would reach out to those individuals and say, this is the problem, this is the situation, you are already magnificent, you are already giving us regular giving, and that's fantastic. On this occasion, could we ask you whether you feel comfortable about putting something on top? But we have to have that conversation logically and honestly with them about that. Yeah.
Can I add a couple of wee things in, Ash?
Of course, Ellie, of course.
Ellie,
sorry, Ellie, everyone knows actually way more about regular giving than I. I mean, I've set up a number of regular giving products in my time. Ellie's delivered a lot in the last 15 years for a number of different charities and has got a lot of experience.
I can't get enough of regular giving. But just a couple of wee small things that can help in terms of communications that aren't going to cost a lot. Yes, I know they're not free, but you know, they'll take time. So a wee phone call, include them in your thank you campaign if you do that, or if you don't do it, start doing it maybe around Christmas time. It's a lovely thing to do, getting volunteers and staff involved, or even just like a really simple but very attractive postcard for whether it's key milestones or anniversaries. You know, it can go down really well, just that people are being remembered, and it does not cost a lot. You do not have to go, you know, crazy complex on these things, but enough to be different. But yeah, hope that helps.
Ellie, can I just I'll ask you, quite often I've heard we don't want to talk to a regular giver because we don't want to remind them that they've got that, because we're worried they're going to cancel. We're going to suddenly remember that they've got this thing and they're going to go, oh shit, I'm going to cancel this. What do you think? I mean, I've never had a problem with reaching out to people and saying, you're magnificent, we love you. Yeah,
no, to me, I mean, if you're gonna make contact with people, yes, on the odd occasion you're gonna get the odd cancellation. It's natural because you have perhaps reminded somebody that, oh, I actually, you know, need to tighten my belt at this point.
Yeah.
But I suppose what I'd recommend is that you're looking at, if you are doing something like telephone or what have you, is that you're on top of that information, and you know, your staff are trained to say, well, actually, as you touched on, there are things like payment holidays, or there's other opportunities like, could we come back to you in 6 months' time? But what I would emphasize is then that you are capturing that data and you're recording that data, and somebody has responsibility for, you know, putting an action in, and that action is followed up, and you are doing that with a supporter. So there's, I mean, yes, you are going to get the very, very odd, but it's definitely not huge. In my experience, you will not cause an avalanche of cancellations. You will not, but you do need to monitor them. And that's where your reporting systems and your communications between departments becomes so darned important.
Yeah.
Just to add to that, Ellie, because that's a really good point. Like, we can't just leave these people in a bubble and not touch them ever again, because that by necessity means that you're not then saying thank you and adding them to things like somebody's put in the chat, light up a life, which might be really important to them. So we have to, I would say, that look at them as a group of people, but also understand that everybody's got different needs within that group, and it's really tricky. But you know, with the numbers that we're probably talking about, there is, you know, the capacity to do the phone calls and to just, you know, be mindful of the fact that they are all a group of really special individuals that support you. So
and there's ways again.
Sorry.
So I was just going to say, Colette's just put in the chat about, so you said you've got an email plan, an email comms plan for rigging. Absolutely right. Yeah, it's just the easiest thing in the world, and it, you know, you're generating content all the time. You're generating stories, images. You can use that to say thank you. You can have that. You can continue to communicate. You're brilliant. You're amazing. We love you. Look at what you've achieved this month. Why not? You know. So that it's that little special stuff, you know. It's the reason we want to do this is that the loyalty ladder, as we learned in the 90s when we talked about donor development, is we want to move people up. Someone's a regular giver. We want to get to the point when they get to retirement or they get to write their will, they go, okay, what am I going to do? My key decisions, who am I going to support? And we want them to look back on the relationship they've got with you and go, do you know what? They're going to be the one that, if I have to reduce all my regular giving or all my donations to just one charity, it's going to be them, because I love them. I love the relationship I get. I feel valued. I feel supported. And if I'm going to choose someone for my legacy, that's what it's going to be. Yeah, and it's not difficult, particularly with where you've got email and social media, to just consistently reinforce that message that you're amazing and we love you. We really love the fact that we asked you to commit and you committed, and that's brilliant. Sorry, Ellie, were you going to ask something to that?
Probably.
No. I've wiped it from your way. Chelsea, anything else we need to be covering?
Yes. How soon after an event would you contact participants to ask them to become regular givers?
A good point. I don't know. Haven't tested it. So we went out a few months afterwards. Again, I think it's about reasonableness. You're not going to get a massive take up to that. Okay. Where I think it works, I wouldn't. Let's pick a hospital. Let's pick Midnight Walk. Yeah. The motivation for someone taking part in a Midnight Walk is almost always, you've looked after someone I love, I want to say thank you. There you go. Okay. The chances of them coming in and repeating, some people will do 2-3 Midnight Walks. Quite often it's a one-off activity because they go around their social network, they raise money, they hand it over to the charity, and that's it. But the passion, the commitment to the charity is still there. So there is an opportunity to reach out and say thank you, but I'd only really approach people who fundraise. So people that have so entry fee only eventers, almost certainly not. Yeah, as we know, the vast majority of time, quite a lot of the time, people are taking part in an event because it's a fun event. I will go on, it's local charity, I don't mind. But actually, where's the connection? We're looking for people with that connection. So I've not tested timing after an event. Give it a go.
Ash, just as my question, would you treat people differently who have done bigger events such as the marathon or like jumping out of a plane rather than kind of hospice organised events? Would you see them as more likely to become a regular giver?
Okay, honestly, not my field. Event fundraising, not my field of expertise. However, in this where I've led and managed teams before, it's the connection to the charity. Quite a lot of the time, particularly for adventure type fundraising or big activity type fundraising like the marathon, the activity comes first, the cause is very much secondary. And I don't think, therefore, that is a reasonable target. However, again, someone who's just paid the golden bond for the marathon is, I think, less likely to be interested in supporting the charity than someone that's then gone and raised another £5,000 on top, etc. We need to look for evidence of where there's connection. Yeah. But I think that I've no problem at all, yeah, in the eventer being approached by the charity and going, you're brilliant, you're amazing, can we talk to you about the relationship? There's not going to be that many of them that it's going to take thousands and thousands of hours, okay? We can have that conversation. And it's reasonable, and we have this conversation when we look at databases quite often. We'll see an eventer who's raised umpty thousands of pounds and has done it on a number of occasions, and they're getting exactly the same comms program, usually by email from the events team, that blokey who turned up and paid 15 quid entry fee to a bubble rush 2 years ago gets. There's no differentiation in the marketing plan, and that shouldn't be. There should be that focused communication. One of the things we know when we do a big data reviews of databases, this again, forgive me, this is hospice specific for this one. If someone joins as an IMO donor, 30% chance of giving again. If you join as a general donor, 40%. If you join as a Light Up a Life donor, 70% chance of giving again. If you join as an eventer, if your first engagement is event, it's 50% chance that you'll ever do anything again. But only 50% of that subsequent giving is more events. Yeah, 50% of secondary giving from eventers is actually personal giving. But quite often they have to come and find that. They have to come almost fight for it. We don't offer those doorways. So we need to make sure that when someone has demonstrated a connection to the charity through an event, whether it's the marathon, whether it's your bubble rush, whether it's your garden fete, whether it's open your garden or baking a cake, whatever it is, where there's demonstration of someone who's got affinity, then whoever has the responsibility of that communication, in my view, should be talking to them going, you're amazing, brilliant. What can we talk about? And when we look at, final point, when we're looking at databases and really looking at the top of the pyramid, what we find is the people with the greatest value are not simply those that write the biggest checks. Almost always, the people who support charities who are the biggest financial value are those that do lots and lots of different types of things and have done it for years. So we quite often find people who are event participants and they also play the lottery and they buy raffle tickets and they make donations and they bake cakes and they have a regular gift as well. The classic case of one of our clients was we reviewed the database and found the second highest value individual giver in their entire database, out of 20-odd thousand people, was their lottery administrator. And this lady had been working for the charity for nearly 20 years. In that time, she had fundraised and donated back about a year and a half's worth of salary equivalent in the time, because she was so passionate, and no one had the faintest idea she was there, because she'd never given more than 500 quid as a one-off. It'd always been little bits and pieces and taking part of that, but she was their second best fundraiser ever, and no one in the fundraising department had a clue. Yeah, not even she did, to be honest. But you know, again, it's that we need to make sure that we're reflecting those relationships. Yeah.
Just to add in, just briefly, I did Race for Life, like everyone has, like years ago, and one of the things that they did that I thought that was really good is they build up the participation in that event so much that you feel like you're in such a community. They give you tips for running, all that kind of stuff. And so then the ask for regular giving on the back of that feels quite natural, because you feel like you've had this stream of communications from them that includes you in this thing that's really important. And I know that they have a lot of resources to be able to do that, but I think that just like with everything, like the communication path before you get to regular giving is so important. So whether it's an event or cash or whatever, how you speak to the people who are doing that thing before you ask them for a regular gift is crucial.
Chelsea, sorry to just jump in. Chelsea, you told us about a completely opposite experience just this week, didn't you?
Which one was that?
Didn't someone approach you for a regular gift, basically having almost never spoken to you before?
Oh, both of us, I think.
Oh, was it you? Was it you, Amy, as well?
It might have been Chelsea who talked about it though.
I had one, it's an animal charity, and they'd rescued a fox from my garden, and I rang them basically to be like, help, there's 2 baby foxes stuck in my garden and I can't get them out. And when I say stuck, like, I lived in a basement flat, so there was a wall that they just weren't big enough to get out of, and I was not in any way equipped to deal with 2 baby foxes. So I rang the animal charity to come and save them, and they did that, and it was free, obviously. And then they rang me pretty much 10 minutes after the fox saver had left to say, are the foxes out? Is everyone all right? And I was like, yeah, no, thanks so much. That was great. They were like, cool. So can you donate £5 a month to help us do that for more people? And then I did. And I think I still have this donation like 4 years later, because you can't say no when someone's just done something for me. You can't be like, well, no, I'm not going to help you.
The lesson here is everyone take down Chelsea's details.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just ask. You can't say no. But do you know what? I love that. I mean, it's really cynical, isn't it? It's really kind of in your face. But actually, do you know what? That's really effective. I think there are ways of doing that there is a smoother journey into that.
I had a question. I just wanted. I put earlier back to what you were saying about putting a regular giving ask in the patient packs.
Yes.
With a hospice, I think there are rules around that, aren't there? With, you know, if they're using a kind of a medical service, you can't kind of go to them asking to them like to pay if they're beneficiaries. I think that's a line, isn't it?
So yes, you're opening up. We could have another half an hour on this. So yes, absolutely right. And one of the challenges I've worked with a number of hospices, for example, working with care and fundraising teams. One sat on one side of the room, one sat on the other side of the room, going, guys, actually, we're all part of one big happy family. And the fear is, oh my God, I'm going to be asked to ask people for money. And no, absolutely not. But as one of the ward sisters at the hospice that I worked at in 2005 famously said to me, just because you're dying does not mean you turn into a blithering idiot. So our responsibility, in my view, is to offer an informed opportunity to allow people to join, to walk through a doorway that we say, it's there, it's open for you if you wish, but it's your choice. So my hospice experience, when I first walked into the hospice, the director of care said, you're not allowed to tell people that we're a charity in the reception, because by saying the word charity, you're kind of almost implying that they should be giving, and that's really unfair. And 2 years later, we had patient information packs that said, hi, this is the hospice, here's who we are, we're a charity, this is the services we do, we're a charity, here's how we're funded, here are key ways that people in our community choose to support us. One of those is regular giving, one of those is giving in wills. So we had giving in wills information as part of the patient information pack. Not a problem at all. And the staff really liked it, because rather than having to answer awkward questions about fundraising, they could say, oh, actually, there's something really good here that you can read that gives you all the information. But by the way, I can just run upstairs and get one of my colleagues for you if you need anything further. So absolutely right. I'm not suggesting that we're walking up to someone who's just walked into IPU, for example, in a hospital and going, hello, can we talk about regular giving? But that's no, seriously, it's not a dumb question. That's the expectation. A lot of our service delivery colleagues fear that that's what we want them to do, and we do not. We simply want them to be able to offer people the opportunity to make an informed personal decision that's right for them. And I've always said, if someone wants to access the charity services and never give a penny because they can't do that, that's absolutely fine, not a problem at all. And I, as a director of fundraising, I will send someone a newsletter forever if they're telling me that they love receiving it and they really value it, but they just can't afford to give any money. Not a problem at all. What I don't want to do is just waste a load of money sending stuff to people that really don't care about it. Yeah. So that's the challenge there. So I think that talking to patients, and for hospices, next month we'll talk about Light Up Alive. Light Up Alive has to be a proposition for patients. Just because you're in a bed does not mean you might want to have a light on the tree for your loved one. That might be something you really want to do and achieve for next time. We'll talk about that in a month's time. So for me, it's a balance. Here it is. Here are the opportunities. Here are the benefit it provides. Here are some amounts that we might promote, that we might suggest that you want to think about, because they deliver certain amounts of service delivery. It's up to you. Anything else, Chelsea? Anything else we haven't covered?
There are a few questions, but we can contact people individually with more in-depth answers to the questions. Okay,
fair enough.
So let us know if you have any. You can email us. Amy has put it in the chat, but you can email Amy directly, or you can email our generic email, which is just hello@Pebble Beach Fundraising, or you can email any one of us individually. It's just our first name and then. Yeah.
And don't, again, no obligation. Come and have a chat to us. Just talking to us does not mean we expect you to spend money with us. Okay, come and have the conversation. It's absolutely fine. We're interested in you guys having the best program that you can. If we can help you deliver that, wonderful. But if not, we're happy to give advice and support where we can. Okay. Failed miserably again on the timing. Sorry, guys. An hour and a quarter. You know what? It'll be the. I'll say it again next month. I'll go. It's going to be half an hour. It won't be. It'll be another hour and a quarter. Just make sure you got 2 cups of coffee next time. Okay. Lovely to see everyone. Thank you for giving us your time. I hope that was useful for you. Be in touch. Give us a shout if you need us. Take care. Have a fabulous week. Okay. All the best now.